One of the things, guys, too, I just want to weigh in quickly here, just for added context to what this is. In general, we host it in Ground Branch because the training facilities, like it just it helps to facilitate the training better than any other that I've seen personally. So in terms of anchoring all of the fundamentals that we're working on in Ground Branch, that wasn't the intention with being in Ground Branch as much as that this is the best facility for it. So it's the fundamentals that are being shared that can be applied in any of the games that are any of the tactical shooter titles that people might be playing.
Okay, guys. I'm not going to ask you to body circle, but we're going to do a quick and dirty start of CQB again because A, it's been a long time since a lot of us have done this. B, a couple of you haven't done this, and C, we need to learn how to play Ground Branch again. First thing, this is a door. Doors are thresholds. Thresholds are problems. We deal with problems. That's basically all CQB is problem solving threshold by threshold. Regardless of where you're doing it or the situation, you're basically just dealing with things that are doors or you treat as doors continually until you're all dead or they're all dead. Ignore everything else. This is the door we're going to be working for now, just because it's a nice big open room and it's easier to do it. So, two types of entry, dynamic and deliberate entry. Dynamic entry is your classic Hollywood where you will stack up on the door and then, open the door, throw a flashbang and all run in and kill all the bad guys and write a book about it afterwards. And deliberate entry is, for those who don't know, you'd open the door and then from here you'd work the area that you can see from the threshold of the door to clear as much of the room as possible before you go into the room, right? Generally speaking, unless you have to get into the room quickly for whatever reason, do a deliberate entry. It will stop you from dying a lot more, right? Nice and easy. If you open a door and you all start running in, chances are you're not going to clear everything. Someone's going to be in a corner and loads of you are going to die, at least the first person. If you do a deliberate entry, you can clear 70-80% of the room from outside of the room without exposing yourself, and you can get more guns on target. Which at the end of the day, CQB is about getting as many guns on a problem as possible, as quickly as possible, so that you can kill it without being able to kill you. Don't try and fight fair, because fighting fair is how you die. So, you'll approach the door, and the basics to a deliberate entry are you approach the door. If the door's cracked slightly, like this, then you're obviously going to check through the crack. Don't stand in front of the door, stand in front of the door, it's how you get shot through the door. I assume everyone knows this. And then you'll open the door. From here, you've got two sides, right? So you've got the side you can see, the side you can't see. Nice and easy. You want to clear as much of the room as possible without taking contact to get as much sort of free space as possible, okay? So from here, from this corner, you're going to pie off this corner here of the door to clear as much of the room as you can until the point you take contact. When you take contact, you have to make a decision: go in the room or work it from outside. But if you're coming around the door and there's a guy stood here, like right in front of you, obviously you're not going to stand here in the door, fight with them, and then keep going because more guns are going to be on the doorway, right? So you have to reset and rework the problem. The other thing for deliberate entry is that you take a calculated risk whenever you come up to a closed door to cross it or not, right? Pros of crossing it like this is that the second man who stays on the previous side can look in as well, so two of you are basically clearing the room. Con is you're crossing in front of a door, so if they don't know you're there, do it, fine, whatever. Con of it is obviously if they hear footsteps outside the door, Abu's going to be very angry and he's going to start full autoing his AK through the door. If we stack up here for me, just stack up on the door, any order, doesn't matter how. Okay, so what we're going to do is a cold walk into the room. All I want you to do, without me saying anything, without any of you saying anything, is enter the room and then stop when you think you're in the place you should be at after you enter the room. Ready? Okay, so in you go. It's fine, we'll just do it four at first. If you go in as well, but we'll just do four at first, everyone else can watch. Yep, pretty much the right places. So these are what we call points of domination. When you get into a room, points of domination are basically the places you stand that let you kill people without you killing each other, is the easiest way to put it. Normally, you'll work towards looking towards one corner. In the case of this room, this barrel and wall here kind of obscures it a bit, so this is fine for positioning. If you are coming into a real room, you can take a calculated risk to come around these and to clear around these and take the point in this deep corner, but it's up to you. It's a calculated risk, pros and cons, as with everything in CQB, so it's just a split-second decision. The most important one is the last man into the room. Everyone else going into the room, realistically speaking, knows what they're doing, so they should end up roughly the right place, all clearing the room, all being able to see each other without flagging each other, and being able to see every sort of dead space area, every crevice of the room, so they're not going to leave anything untouched. Someone will have to look behind here, but you can work that after, you can talk to each other. This corner here is the free corner, so that's where everyone basically ends up looking after they've killed everyone else in the room, right? The most important thing is, okay, other people will do this differently. I'm sure Vertical knows that some people do this differently. In my experience, the easiest way to do it is the last man into the room is the first one back out of the room, right? So, say you've got a 5 stack going into the room, all 5 of you enter the room, the 5th man, upon entry, say I'm the 5th man, I come into the doorway here. My job, because there's so many guns in the room already, my job is to turn around and cover out the door, okay? I'm just going to stay here. Whatever's happening, unless I hear, you know, screams of panic inside the room from my own guys, and oh shit, my leg's blown off, I'm going to stay here and watch out the door, so no one can run in the room after us and make the room a threat from outside, right? Once we've finished clearing the room, my job is now to lead us out. Treat the door, once again, like you are entering a room. So the door becomes a threshold again, it's a threat again, because you can't see everything outside. If you still have guys outside the room, this isn't a problem. But if everyone's come into the room, you're only working a 5 or whatever, and you've all come into the room, you've got to clear it again. You don't necessarily have to pie it off, because you know you've entered from here, and you can see here, so the threat is round on this side, okay? So everyone would stack up on you, you'd lead the stack out of the room, you clear this corridor, and then you carry on your merry way, right? Knowing that, and knowing how you're going to do it as a team, is the most important part of clearing a whole house properly, because realistically all of you are semi-intelligent at least, you know, some less than others, but
hey, I resemble
That's
that.
a big ask from me.
but everyone
Funny how Eno laughs first.
Leave Canada out of it.
You spray water.
Easy
But-
there.
all of you know how to clear a room, right? Like, all of you have done this before on some level, whether it's to, you know, actually doing it in the game, doing it in Call of Duty, I don't give a shit, right? All of you know, look around the room so you're not going to get shot in the arse leaving it, right? But knowing how to get out of a room quickly and efficiently speeds up how you're going to clear a whole house. Not only that, it also means that you know that that job's taken care of. You don't have to worry about the door going in, so you can just focus on what's inside the room, work it, finish it, and then get out as quick as possible, right?
Quick question on that
Yep.
note. If you have enough people, is it general best practice to leave one dude outside to hold the hallway, or is that situation?
Never one dude, 2 minimum. Because if you leave one guy and 2 people peek him from opposite directions, he's dead, right?
Right. He can't watch behind his own back.
So you need at least 2, preferably more. Like a real raid team is, you know, 10, 15
lot of
too many
dudes,
guys.
yeah.
It's like it's a
There's a
lot
lot.
of guys. They're going to be sending guys into rooms, and guys are going to be holding the corridor outside, so they don't have to worry about exits, right? Normally that would almost work like a conveyor belt, where a team goes in, the next team steps past, they come out on the back, blah blah blah, and it gives them time to rotate in and out of rooms. But obviously in Ground Branch we're normally working in 5, 6s, like 10 at most, which would be 2 5s. You can kind of do it then, but at least 2 guys out of the room. You need someone to watch behind you when you're in, you know, when you're holding outside of a room. Otherwise, you're just going to get shot in the back. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is priorities. So the priorities go corridor, open door, closed door, wall. Okay, so basically the most dangerous thing is the corridor you're in, the next most dangerous thing is an open door, the next most dangerous is a closed door, etc. Right? You have to work in that order, because say you're coming to this corridor and this door's open, right? You now know that there's a potential for a threat inside this room. Someone can be in here, okay? But you also know that this entire corridor is open. So you have to enter this room, but you have to clear as much of this corridor as you can as possible first, before you can enter this room, to eliminate as much threat behind you as you're going in, right? So without crossing this, you'd have to have your team basically sweep these angles while someone's clearing this room. Clearing corridors is a pain in the arse because it's completely open, and so anything can get thrown, shot, you know, flung at you, whatever. So generally speaking, you deal with this room as quick as possible. Again, possible dynamic entry, because if you're currently getting shot at. If not, you need people holding outside of the corridor because it's the biggest threat, but you have to clear this to move on. If this is closed, you can bypass it, right? So if it's closed and you don't make, you know, you're not making a massive fucking racket, which is hard, you can move past it, clear this area of the corridor, you know, clear this T-junction, and then come back and clear this room. It's doable. Whether you want to do it or not, again, pros and cons, okay? The next thing I'm going to talk about is how to clear T-junction corridors, because that's the funniest thing to do on this map. So if you guys form up into a stack on each side of the corridor, roughly even, they don't have to be even numbers, but just on the left and right. Okay, so what's going to happen here is you're going to clear a T-junction corridor. The way you do this is not difficult, but it is fiddly, right, to say the least. So basically speaking, because you have two open corridors on either side, you need to peak at roughly the same time, or you need to find a way to prioritize how you're going to do it. How you do that depends on the individual corridor and what's happening in the engagement, right? If you know the person opposite you, and you're both very good, or you're both very knowledgeable about what you're doing, or you've done it a lot together, you can stay standing and slowly step out into the corridor. Issue with that, of course, is, say I'm here and coming out with Mighty, and there's a guy literally behind Mighty's head. I either have to shoot through his head to kill the guy, quickly drop to a crouch to kill the guy, like this, or I'm going to have to step further out into the corridor to get shot. So that's the risk of it. The other way you do it is one guy goes higher and one guy goes lower. So one guy would move crouched like this, and Mighty would stay standing, and we'd come across like this. But it's still a bit of a pain because Mighty's entire body is in front of me, right? Other options: flashbang, frag. You know, I'm not teaching you to do law enforcement CQB here, so feel free to kill people with frag grenades. It's great. But once you've cleared as much of this T-junction as you can, you may not be able to clear all the way around, right? So if you're working in a pair opposite each other and you get to like here and you don't feel comfortable stepping out because you know there are threats in the building, you've heard movement around the corner, you've seen a shadow, whatever, at this point I am at the point where I have to make a decision, right? You now treat this entire area cut off by the 90 degree of this wall as a massive doorway, and you're going to button hook it. So button hooking is when you come round and clear the side you are on. So you're going to come to here, you're going to go, right, we're going to button hook, and at the point you're going to button hook, you count down with the person opposite, 3, 2, 1, and you step round and you clear your part of the corridor. Don't button hook without telling the other person you're going to do it, because the other person won't do it and you get shot in the back. Doesn't work, right?